I would be guten Morgen here. Although,
yeah,
German completely confuses me because Morgen is also tomorrow. So you say Guten Morgen meaning good morning, but if you say Morgen on its own, it means tomorrow. What's all that about?
Yes. I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't prepared for that question, to be honest. Yeah, but it's 8 p.m. It's 8 p.m. over here, so it's a wonderful evening. The sun is shining. Still shining. I don't know if you can see that.
I can see it out the corner up there. Yeah.
I almost. I could actually do the session outside. It's really, really nice weather. And got my first beer ready, and I'm looking forward to talking to you.
I don't think anybody that knows Kristian Kohle believes that's his first beer at 8 p.m. Nobody who knows you well. Come on. But I like the pretense.
Okay.
It's probably beer 4, beer 5.
7th beer, yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh, you got me. Yeah, you got me there. Prost. Oh.
Prost. I haven't seen this view before, so just before we get stuck into guitars and stuff like that, what do you got going on there? You got are those touch screens, or they're just
No, they're just normal screens. You can see this is my SSL MX4 audio interface. It's like the digital console. I don't know if you can see that.
I can see it. Yeah.
Which is I'm still using that audio interface. It's fantastic. And what else do you want to see? I have 2 SSL type compressors here.
Yep.
A TC reverb over here.
Yep.
An Oram Octasonic Pre. That's all I use here. I still have a TC finalizer that I actually still use sometimes.
I know a couple of big mixers. I'm not making this public. He says to many people. I know a lot of big mixers that still use the finalizer because when you're trying to get it over the edge, or maybe you're doing a mix off and you just want it to be loud and you want it to be impressive, and you're mixing off against other people, they'll use the TC finalizer. Yeah,
and in my case, I got that one maybe 15 years ago or something, because back then I only had native plugins and you couldn't use them live or like on an output of a console. So I needed hardware to mix it to something to get a good level, because I wanted to avoid that situation that you make a mix and then you go to mastering and then suddenly after the limiting, everything sounds distorted, the snare is gone and all that kind of stuff. So I needed something that could give me a good level right from the start. And that's how I ended up on my 2-bus, and it kind of stayed there. And it has a sound. I got used to that sound. So sometimes I still turn it on. It's just, it's not bad just because it's digital and old.
Yeah, no, I agree. So what's the green two-space rack there? Is that some kind of compressor?
That is an SSL type compressor from Mu Audio in Germany. And this one has parallel compression, and it even has my logo on it, the Kohle Studio logo. And they built it for me also 15 years ago or something, because back then I think nothing was available with a dry, wet parallel compression knob or something.
Not on hardware, at least, yeah.
Not on hardware, right? Mm-hmm. And it also sounds a little different than the original SSL. It's a little bit more forgiving in a good way, and it's always sitting on my drum bus. It's always there.
Drum bus.
Yes, and even when I pull up the first microphone during a drum sound check or something, all my drums are always going through that compressor if we are doing rock or metal. But that's what's happening here most of the time.
So how many SSL style compressors do you have in there?
2. Here's another one, the black one, only 1 rack unit, and that one can be patched anywhere. So I really like SSL compression. I use it on vocals, I use it on bass, and
really?
most of the time this one sits on the master bus if I use something there. Maybe 30% of the time I use a master bus compressor, and then it's this one.
That's really cool. And Okay, so in your mixing process, I know we were going to talk about guitars and IRs and stuff, and we will. I promise everybody in the email we said we were going to talk about. But I haven't seen this view before, so I wanted to know because, of course, in the last year or so of knowing you, I haven't actually been able to get on a plane. I'm sure everybody's noticed we had a little pandemic thing, but unfortunately, once we get able to get on the plane, we'll come out there. So yeah, dumb questions. How much are you in a mixing process? How much are you breaking out of a box, or is everything you're talking about here during tracking?
No, but it's not a lot anymore. So basically, it's those two compressors I'm still using, and I use them mainly with the same settings. So that's my recall.
Yep.
So I just ride the input, and I don't change the settings. Then I have this TC Electronics M2000, where I also don't change the settings. It's like 2 reverb programs, one for vocals, one for drums. Never touch it, and I use it quite a lot. So that is also recalled in a way. And then I think the only other thing I use is over there, a Pultec equalizer that I sometimes use because it's so easy to recall. But that's all.
And you put that on your master bus?
Sometimes on my master bus, sometimes, whatever needs some highs mostly.
Yeah.
And because like most of us, I'm constantly working on 10 different projects or something, and you need to recall stuff all the time. Just like yesterday, I had to print instrumental mixes of a record that I have mixed a month ago or something. So things just need to be recallable. So yeah, I try to not touch my analog gear during the mix down, so it's easy to recall. And I don't know if I would still buy analog gear if I started today. I don't know, but I own this equipment and I know how it sounds and I love it, and that's why I use it. But I'm not saying it's better than digital. I think these days are over. How much are you still using?
It's funny you should say that, because yesterday I had to recall, or I did recall a mix from an artist I did about a year and a half ago, because we tracked an album's worth of material, but we've been putting out singles, and we've done 2 singles, and I had one single mixed by Reed Shipham and another one mixed by Mark Ender, both incredible mixers. But this single, I was like, my mix is pretty close, but it's not quite there. What I loved about those other 2 guys was a little bit more detail work in the vocal, a little tighter low end. And I was like, I can do that. I'll recall it on the SSL. So yesterday, I recalled it, and like all mixing, I'm sure you've been through this, you recall the mix and you realize there's actually a couple of production things that will make your mix better. You know what I mean? It's like... So I opened it up and I realized there was just kind of a looseness in the low end, which was, yes, it could have been improved with high passing and boosting other frequencies, but it was more about, like, I had this timpani playing against the drums, and it was like, the kick and the timpani were fighting, and a lot of it was just timing. So I went in there and re-edited some stuff. But the long story is, did that on the SSL, and then after we finished that and we sent it off for mastering to Adam A, and Eric says, well, you still got to drop in those acoustic guitars, electric guitars on that other song that you've been holding off on. And that was on the SSL as well. So, yes, it's kind of a pain. I know why so many people are moving away from consoles. I'm used to the sound. And I would say I work hybrid. I'm doing a lot in the box with plugins. And then I am using the console for final, like what you're doing. I'm using it, but in more channels. I split up over 40. Although I'm probably, frankly, using, what are we at, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I'm using 32 channels on the 40 channel.
Where's your computer monitor?
I'm looking into it as we speak.
Okay, yeah, so but that means you're always listening like.
Well, I have speakers down here. There's speakers down here for like editing. So when I'm mixing, when I'm mixing, I sit there. But when I'm editing, I can sit anywhere. Or I do what I'm doing now, when I'm editing, just put on a pair of headphones.
Because that was maybe the most annoying thing about big analog consoles, as cool as it is to work on them, if you just need the console. But that combination with the computer, with the editing, with the plugins and that stuff, that never really worked for me, because either you have your monitor like too far away, or where do you put your stuff? It never really worked for me. So I was very happy to get rid of all consoles I used to have, analog and digital, and now I only have one fader here on this Steinberg controller, and that's enough. And
Right.
but I really like having that one fader. And the cool thing about this little controller here is that it's synced to Cubase. So whenever you're working on a certain channel, usually you click on that channel, and it's always synced. So you don't have to think about what that fader is controlling. It will always be controlling the channel you're working on. So you just anytime you work on something, you just grab for that fader, and that's a great concept. So yeah, I have a lot of space here. I have my monitors right in front of me, and I still have one hardware fader for automation or for the feel.
What do you use? Do you use the PreSonus, the fader port, or what do you use?
No, it is the Steinberg. What is it called? It's called CC 121.
Right.
It's a Steinberg product, so it only works with Cubase. But the cool thing is, like I said, it's integrated really well. So you just work on a channel, you work on the bass, and when you grab the fader, it's gonna be the bass. Then you work on the kick drum, it's gonna be the kick drum. So if you are in Cubase, I can really recommend that little thing there.
But I see you have the Crane song there for your monitor controller.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I see it in a lot of high-end studios. Are you a big fan?
It sounds great.
Yep.
So do other controllers. I still have the old converters, but I don't have a problem with them. By the way, why should something that used to be cool and perfect and state of the art 5 years ago not be working anymore now? But yeah, it sounds great. I'm not the biggest fan of the layout and of the concept. There's like a few annoying things in that concept, or it's a matter of taste, I guess. But a few things I don't like. Yeah, but it sounds great. It looks great, and I really like that big green knob.
Yeah, I like things when it comes to mixing, because we're just talking about what a pain in the butt it is that yesterday I had to recall 2 completely different songs on the SSL I need to remix and add parts to, and how time-consuming that can be. All that being said, I do have a computer with my console, so I can recall all the fader moves, all the pan pots, all the compression, all the dynamics, all the EQs and everything. So we're blessed like that. And on my master bus, on my mix bus, I do have Pultecs, which are detented. They're the mastering ones. So other stuff doesn't have that. So we either take photographs, or quite frankly, a lot of the time we don't touch anything, like exactly you're talking about. We just get used to knowing how it sounds and how to push into it, which is quite typical, I think, of people working on hardware. But I do love what you're just talking about. I like detented pots. You know what I mean? Especially if they're, in like half dB or something like that, then it makes life so much easier. Well, this is great. I just sort of went on this tangent for a bit because I hadn't seen this view before, because normally it's looking behind and I see guitar amps. I don't see this gear down here. I will say you're using the Amphions.
A new angle for you today would be refreshing. Excuse me, the question was?
Amphions. I see you using the Amphions. And are they your only monitors that you've got up there?
Yeah, I don't want any others. I'm like...
Great.
I get confused if I have more than one pair of monitors. I mean, I do listen in the car or somewhere else sometimes, but I mean, people are different. I know some people really need to switch between their NS10s and their full range and their other monitors. In my case, it just confuses me. I remember before I had these, I used to have Dyn Audios, and there was a time when I was having both here, and it really was like, you listen on one speaker for half an hour, you switch to the other one, and everything sounds terrible and sounds wrong and turned upside in a weird way. Everything sits somewhere else. Then you get used to it. After a few minutes, you switch back to the other monitors. Same story. Just confuses me. So I try to have one setup that I really know well and work with that one. And I think in the end, that is the most important part about monitoring. It's always a combination of your room and the placement and the speakers and your ears, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but you need to know your acoustical environment. And, if you can tell if it sounds great or not, that's all you need to know.
Yeah, I agree. I will say with the Antheon guys, they're really cool guys. I have not yet had a pair yet to try. They have offered a couple of times, and I need to get them down. But I will say my interactions with them at trade shows and just online have always been absolutely fantastic. It's really, and the people I know that use them are all fans of the product, but also the people behind it. I personally, without getting onto too much of a famous Warren tangent, talk about gear that I love, but I also talk about gear that I love and the people behind it support customers. They, to me, that's a huge deal. But yeah, Antheon would definitely always come across as great.
I remember that. I'm still very grateful. First of all, I agree. The Antheon people are great. Yep. And I remember when I did my first Nail the Mix session with Aborted, I was doing that in Orlando, Florida. And Antheon were kind enough to send me a pair nice. From Finland to Orlando. So when I got there, it was already set up, and it felt a little more like my studio. And so very nice people, and I can recommend those speakers. But I also have to say that if you want to try Antheon, try all their models or all the different models, because they really sound different. They are voiced differently.
Oh, they are.
I started with a 118, and that wasn't my cup of tea. The voicing, still great speakers, of course. And it was first when I found the 215 that I got hooked, so to say. So they all have a little different voicing, and it's worth to not only try one pair. So let them send you a few more.
Yep. Petey's saying he's one of our Academy members who said that's proper customer service when they supply you speakers when you're in a different country. Damon says, what do you mean, Warren? We're here for those Warren tangents. Yes, the famous Warren tangents. It's just like I'm excited to. I think I just love talking about music. I love making music. I like gear, guitars, songs. Everything, pedals, speakers, microphones. I mean, how many people in this world get to do something for a living that they can be so obsessively in love with? We're very blessed, all of us, that get to make money. Because I grew up as a fan of music before I knew that you could actually get paid to do anything in music. And then suddenly suddenly is an exaggeration. I eventually started to make a living in music. I mean, what a blessing. I mean,
wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I want to do a giveaway. We'll do some giveaways during the we'll do some giveaways. It's cold. Yeah, can you? It's cold water.
Oh, can my beer's cold too.
Well, a cold cup of tea. So, let's do a giveaway. Now, what I usually do is I just what I usually do is just ask a question that's universal, like something that anybody could answer. So I think let's do this, because we've had two things we talked about, so we'll do it. Let's do the first one, bus compression. Do any of you use hardware bus compression? And we're going to give away one of Kristian's courses. So, woohoo! And Eric will choose at random somebody, so anybody can win. And if you've already bought Kristian's course, then we'll give you a different course. And so you can enter you can get any ProMix Academy course. So all we want to know is, like, do you use a hardware bus compressor? And if you do, what is it? And if you don't use a hardware bus compressor and you do it in the box, what in the box compressor do you use? That's all you have to do. It's not, the competition is literally tell us what you use. Do you use hardware compression? If so, what is it? And if you use software compression, what is it? Just let us know in the comments, and Eric will choose somebody at random. Okay, so tell us a little bit, because obviously we just put out this rather wildly successful, fantastic course on recording guitars. I didn't really expect anything different, because when it comes to specialized courses like that, you expect a handful of people to like it and all that kind of stuff. But, guitar recording, in some ways, might be considered passé in metal. Let's be honest. So many people use, virtual amps and simulations and emulations, or whatever the proper term is. But you and I know, as fans of rock music, growing up with it, what made the great bands great was the fact that you could tell who the guitar player was, because it was their amp, their tone, or who the producer was and the way they recorded. And that's the number one thing we're hearing, isn't it? You're continually hearing, like, everything sounds the same, everybody's using the same emulations, everybody's using the same drum samples. It's like this conversation that is like ongoing in every forum ever in the history of forums. So I wasn't surprised that your 3 hours and 20-minute course is like most people's 15-hour course, quite frankly, because you're like so German about it. I mean, it's ridiculously detailed, insanely detailed. So, all right, dumb question. We did that. We did the amp video together where we talked about some of your favorite amps. I'm not going to ask you about the 5150. Too many people asking about that. That would be an hour conversation. Are there like go-to amps that you come back to? Are you conscious of not repeating yourself as well, or it's a loaded question, because I know that you want to make unique music, but you obviously must know that amp on that pickup with that guitar and that microphone is going to do the job.
It's a mix of everything, so to say. So it mostly depends on the project. Sometimes people know exactly what they want, and then, there's not much of a choice. Then sometimes I have clients that really want a good, but what you call rather generic sound, and then I don't force them into anything else. And then you have other projects where you can experiment a little more, or where the project is supposed to sound unique and different from the metal mainstream. So it really depends. But if you want to be successful in this business, I think you need to be able to do both, to be like creative if you need to, but sometimes you just need to be able to reproduce a certain tone, because that's what people expect, especially if you work with an artist that already has a certain tone, where people, you're not going to tell Angus Young to play a rectifier, that's not going to work. So it's a mix of both, but I can see that in the metal world, people are getting more and more tired of that 5150 V30 SM57 combination, and people are getting more and more tired of that overproduced sound that we have all been doing in the last 15 years. So people are looking for alternatives. And that's what I try to do in my YouTube videos, and that's what I try to do in this course, is to open people's eyes and ears and show them all the options, all the opportunities, all the, they have. Because the irony is that there have never been so many options like today. There are so many amps, pedals, software, freeware, IRs, so people never had so many choices. And the irony is that people all more and more do the same. So what this course is doing, it's trying to, open your ears and eyes for something else.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking at all these comments and questions here.
Okay.
But yeah, I was looking behind me because I have my Eddie Van Halen amp behind me. Although it's not technically a 5150, it was one of Eddie's own amps. This is a good name drop. He gave it to me. When did he give it? About 3 years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's just, you see, I think 5150s, and the reason why they're so popular is they sound really amazing, but they're also a great gateway drug, aren't they? Because you sort of just put them up, turn up the gain, like you're saying, put the 57 in front, plug it in, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
What a great sound. Where some of the amps that I love, I mean, I'm looking over at my rack. Unfortunately, the camera's not showing it, but I've got an Engel, which I love. I've got a few different Marshalls. I actually got a JCM 900, which I like, that people don't like. I toured with that as a guitar player and loved it. And I got a JMP. It was Vivian Campbell's old JMP. I've got a Laney, huge, obviously, Black Sabbath fan, Tony Iommi. That's Eric's dual rectifier. And I've got random weird things like Vox AC100s and stuff like that, which only drive when they're at pure maximum. And all of them have a specific sound that's really good, but they take a little bit of cajoling. Where I think that the 5150 just kind of does the job straight out of the box. So that would be my humble reason why I think it's so popular.
I'm not saying it's a bad amp at all. I never liked that specific voicing too much, but that's just my taste. I've always been more of a rectifier guy than a 5150 guy. Never liked the mids that much. The highs have certain transistor qualities for high gain, and I don't know. It's not the thickest sounding amp either. So it's a great amp, but it wasn't my first choice, especially since there are so many great alternatives out there. But that amp has defined a whole generation of metal tones, so to say.
Yep.
And and that was also the same time when metal productions got cleaner and cleaner. You know, more editing, more drum samples, or that combination. And things got cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, which was cool to some point. But now people are getting more and more bored, both by those super clean and overproduced tones, both drums and guitars. And I think the 5150 is a part of that, you know, just because it's from that same age. So people are looking for other stuff. I was surprised when I was asking my people on YouTube, which amp do you want me to show in a video? I got some answers, but I think the amp that they was on 3 or 4 was the Sun. You know, Sun, is it called Model T or something? You know, that vintage. Blah, blah. They wanted me to play with that amp. I guess you need some pedals for it or something. I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to get
That's really cool.
So I could see people are actually hungry for some alternatives. I've been doing some videos where I was mixing fuzz pedals into tight metal distortion, some experiments like that, and I could really see people getting inspired. I think that's what we need right now. You know, we need to experiment a little more and to define what's metal gonna sound like in 10 years.
So the thing about the 5150 that works, I think the Uberschall as well. I'm not saying they're the same amp. Don't get me wrong; they're very different. No. But the Uberschall does the same thing I'm about to explain with the 5150. And I'm talking from a dumb guitar player's point of view. Dumb guitar player. I plug in, I play some chords, you know, root fifth stuff, you know, through an Uberschall or through the 5150. And my best dumb stupid way of describing it is it sounds like a massive fat synth. So what I mean, it doesn't sound like a massive fat synth. What I mean is it's got that same hugeness to it. It's just, and it's just a wall. And I think that's where the Uberschall, and there's other amps that do it as well, and the 5150 gets so talked about because it just delivers. And yet, I know the amps you're talking about because I grew up, you know, with not much money. So, we were using trainers, which are great amps, but we wanted Marshalls, but we couldn't afford Marshalls. So we'd buy a used trainer, and then you'd get a Boss OD1 and you put it on the front and you drive it. Or DS1 was super popular when I was a kid, you know, the Gary Moore kind of, you know, Boss distortion. And you would try and get your inexpensive amp to sound like what you were hearing on records, which was typically in Britain at least, or Europe, you know, was mainly Marshalls back in those days. So, yeah, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? So when you're trying to mix those or come up with those kind of guitar sounds, are you trying to push them towards that kind of wall of rock, or are you using them specifically knowing that you might have to add another sound in there to get that wall, or you know what I mean? It's kind of an interesting.
Yeah. But I was about to say that it's in rock and metal is not always supposed to sound great or beautiful or expensive.
I like that.
You know,
I like that.
It can, you know, it can sound like that, but it can also sound really dirty and kind of fucked up in a way, and a little, you know, just rock and roll. So
Huge
sometimes. And sometimes we have, I think we've talked about that before, some of the most iconic sounds in metal have been what I call accidents, you know, from people in the 90s or in the 80s who couldn't afford better gear.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be something special. I mean, the Pantera or Dimebag tone is an example. It's not a beautiful tone, but it's very distinct, very special. And I'm pretty sure he used those Randall amps because that's what he found, you know, wherever he was. Same story about the Boss Heavy Metal 2 pedal in Stockholm. I think they just didn't have a lot of gear. They had a PV combo and that pedal, and people have been trying to recreate that tone for 20 years now. So
I used to get that tone as a kid and didn't want it.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is sometimes you want to make a production where you have that wall of sound, where you want to have a beautiful, fat-sounding, sophisticated, distorted tone, you know, that wall of sound that just sounds amazing. That's what you want sometimes. But then on the other hand, sometimes, you know, you just want to sound disturbing and over the top dirty, and that's rock and roll. And in metal these days, depending on the genre, you have both sides, by the way. And that's what makes it interesting. So on one day I might be going for just some kind of Hollywood sounding, huge, bigger than, larger than life kind of thing. And the other day, I want to go for something as fucked up as possible.
I mean, no, I agree. I think I'm passionate about what I'm going to say here. I think that digital technology is absolutely amazing. It's opened the door for everything. But the downside of it is repeatability. What was good in a really perverse way was when you were only on analog. And don't get me wrong, I'm not an analog snob. I know I've got lots of analog gear, but also you watch my videos. I use tons of plugins and stuff. I use emulations, whatever. But my point is, what was great about analog is it was really, really difficult to copy. It was really difficult. You couldn't go, oh, I want to get Lemmy's bass tone. Well, you know what? Get Lemmy. Get his bass, play it like he does, which is like banging the schnizzle out of it, and go through a Marshall, which was essentially just a super lead, because the super lead bass and lead, for all the aficionados will know, is like one component different, and just basically don't use it as a bass. Just use it, because when I first listened to Motorhead as a little kid, I thought that was the guitar player playing down 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 down. I didn't know that was the bass player. I didn't know that was Lemmy. So my point is like, you couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I didn't know a single kid on the planet at that time that could get Lemmy's bass tone. Now I'm sure there is an emulation of the sound. I'm sure there is an IR of the speaker. And I'm sure, you could probably take most kinds of basses, and as long as you have a certain technique, you could get much, much close to it. I'm not saying you can get exactly like it, because it's Lemmy and he's Lemmy. But yeah, that's what's the difference has come. And don't get me wrong, I love digital. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be soundbited as some kind of snob, because I'm not. But now that we can do anything, let's stop doing the same thing.
Yeah. Let's be creative. Digital should not be an excuse for not being creative. Just because you can get everything, that doesn't mean you can't have any, unique ideas yourself. And that's what I'm trying to tell people all the time. It's about what they want. It's about their tone. It's not about copying somebody else, Lemmy, or you name it. It's about, finding your tone. And there have never been so many tools, even for free, IR software, whatever, to achieve this. So it's way easier than back in the 90s, or back when you started with the trainer amp and the Boss distortion, So you have the tools already. All you need. The irony is, back then, it sometimes feels like people didn't have the tools, but they had the creativity and the ideas. And now people have the tools and they get lazy. It's the same sometimes with music. With Spotify. When we grew up, I think I could afford one LP a month or something. So I was thinking really hard for several hours in the store which LP to get, because I didn't want to waste a whole month's money on the wrong album. And now I see my kids on Spotify clicking through, whatever song they want. Of course, they don't appreciate the music like I did it back then. Do I want them to go back? Of course not. But still,
you just want them to think that way.
Exactly, think that way and still discover music, and don't let the algorithm decide all the time. Or just like, don't get lazy, because digital makes you lazy. It's so easy to just recall a preset. And that's, sorry for the rant. I just have to say one more thing.
This is absolutely amazing. Carry go.
This is the main reason for me to still work with tube amplifiers and real cabinets and speakers, because it just forced me to be creative. And I know that I will probably end up with something that sounds more unique than if I use a Kemper, which sounds great as well. But on the Kemper, the chances are higher that I just go through a few presets, and then it's preset number 5. I go like, yeah, sounds great, let's take it. And then I realize, damn, that's the preset I've used on 5 other albums. I don't want that. So
I feel
digital is great, but it makes you lazy.
I feel like one of the things that I've got a bit of a bugbear is genres. Now, I just did a video on Thin Lizzy, which is one of my favorite bands ever. Thin Lizzy, Phil Lynott, as far as I'm concerned, is the Miles Davis of heavy rock. Why do I say that? I say that because everybody that played in Thin Lizzy is a badass. John Sykes, Gary Moore, Brian Robertson, Scott Gorham, Snowy White. The list is Brian Downey. Everybody who played in that band is a world-class guitar player. And even now, as they carry on, still more, it's like he was a great, great songwriter. So I do this thing, and of course, as far as I'm concerned, I grew up with that music. That was the sound of heavy rock in those days. That was heavy rock. And people are debating me. I can't believe that you called this band a heavy rock band. I'm like, it just used to be like that. But I realize now what happens is it's like, oh no, if you're using the HM2 for the Valstein or so-and-so, that's Swedish death metal with a tinge of blah, blah, blah. You used a different amp, so actually it's not. So you're not actually technically right. It used to be like, there was like heavy rock, and there was so much latitude, and people could like, somebody's talking about what somebody said here. What about what the big thing that's missing? They said something like songwriting. How it just seems like the 90s, the mid-90s sort of on was sort of the death of, everything started like every album had the same guitar sound on every single song. I was listening to Chinatown yesterday, Thin Lizzy Chinatown. Go back and listen to that record. It's not the best songwriting from Lynott. It's got Killer on the Loose, Chinatown, 2 absolutely fantastic songs. The riff, just such a great intro. But the guitar playing on it is superb. It's Snow White and Scott Gorham. The guitar sounds are amazing, and it's 1980. Go back and listen to that. It's just so good. Sorry.
but I agree that starting maybe late 90s, early 2000s, and with the beginning of the digital age, things got a lot more similar or uniform, so to say. And not only in music. If you just, I don't really care for cars, but if you look at cars from the 80s, I mean, I can tell a Volvo from a Mercedes from, they just look really, really different. And these days, at least here in Germany, I cannot tell a BMW from an Audi or from a Volkswagen anymore. They all look the same, which has other reasons, but it's the same with the music, that the digital, like the availability, is that a word? Yep. Of music. Yep. Everybody can listen to everything whenever they want. That leads to everybody doing the same thing and following a mainstream. And that, at least in the metal world, turned. And I'm also guilty of that, by the way. So
sure. We all are. We're all guilty of
So I'm really waiting for some kind of not revolution, but some kind of fresh input especially from younger people. I don't expect an old dude like me to make a heavy metal revolution anymore. But that's what I want from the younger guys. To shock me, to do something else where I go like, you can't do that because that's what I'm waiting for. Some kind of heavy metal revolution, because things are getting a little boring.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, I think we have a sort of responsibility. I mean, for those of you that follow both Kristian and myself, you're going to get tips and tricks on how to record music, but you're not going to find us leaning on like generic stuff. I know look, I get it. That's an easier sell as a route of education, to be quite frank. I talk about this all the time. It's a lot easier to sell the norm and the typical, and talk about like how do you want it? Because what is it? There's like a certain kick sample that's on every metal track. It's Slate Trigger 2 something. What's it called? Kick
10.
2 and
10.
Sorry?
Kick 10.
Kick 10. Okay. The cat is out of the bag. Kick 10. And it's on like every single track. And don't get me wrong, Stephen lives down the street. God bless him. The guy's a freaking genius. That's not my point. It's not about his product. It's just the fact that everybody's adopted this same sound. And, I watch some tutorials and I'm like, why is everybody, we're going to break those molds because it's super, super important to me. And let's do another quick competition.
That is the whole way. That is the whole idea behind my course.
Exactly.
My guitar course. So if you're interested, you don't even have to do metal, if you're doing some kind of distorted, overdriven guitar music, in that course I'm trying to give people the right mindset to come up with their own tones. I'm not telling them exactly what to do. I'm giving examples, I'm giving multi-tracks so you can see how I do it, but that's not the point. The point is to inspire people to do something else, whatever they want.
I agree. Absolutely agree, and 100%. So let's, we did say we'd do another competition, and we did talk about speakers. So we're going to do another giveaway. Congratulations to the last winner. We're going to give away Kristian's course, which you haven't yet got it. It is right underneath the video here. It says, get high gain tone crafting with Kristian Kohle here. And it's still at the introductory price. Well, it's back at the introductory price for this call. So speakers or headphones, because we asked about that. What speakers do you use? And if you don't use speakers and you only use headphones or whatever you monitor with, there's no snobbery here. However you're working, however you monitor, just let us know. There's no wrong answer. And we will, we will answer, we will pick somebody at random. Well, actually, Eric will pick somebody at random. So no wrong answer. All we need to know is what speakers you use or headphones or whatever it is that you use to monitor. Just let us know. Oh, and do us a favor. Hit the like button as well, because that helps the YouTube algorithm. I always say that word with an American accent. Algorithm. It sounds so American. It's probably German, knowing my luck. Oh, no, it's probably Greek, isn't it? Algorithm. It's probably Greek derived.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, we'll do questions afterwards. A few people want to ask you directly questions, so we'll do that afterwards. Let us know what you use to monitor, and then we'll do questions. And then we'll do at the end of the video, we'll do giving away Kristian's course, and we'll also give away a membership to Produce Like a Pro, so we'll double whammy at the end. So stick around for that, but please hit that like button. Okay, Kristian, let's talk about some IRs. You have a rather wonderful IR pack, which has this beautiful name because it's called Rainbows and Chainsaws.
Yes. And you see, we've been talking about heavy metal, that heavy metal can sound beautiful and full and sophisticated and just nice and larger than life, but it can also sound dirty and filthy. So I decided to make a pack that has those two sides with just, I think it's 15 or 20 IRs on one side that just sound great for a, let's call it mainstream metal tone. And then you have the filthy side with some more experimental character IRs. But the beauty lies in the blend, in the combination. All the IRs are in phase, so you can blend them. And again, that's what I want you to do. You can just use one of the IRs, but the beauty is in the blend. So you can find a combination in between rainbows and chainsaws, in between beautiful and dirty.
It does sum you up, though, doesn't it? It does sum up Kristian Kohle. I'm going to throw you under the bus here. So I said to him, what you've been doing today? He goes, I actually had a day off for once in doing music, and I did the gardening. And I think
with a chainsaw.
It's like 1 minute he's like, oh no, and he's like, oh, I'm going to prune the roses.
That's what I did today. Exactly. No, that was a wonderful day. We had some sun, and I was taking care of my garden. And I think it was one of the first Saturdays in a long time without any YouTube stuff.
And then I drew you into the dark side of the tube.
Yeah, and yes, and I was, to be very honest, I also told you I was partying hard with a friend yesterday.
That's what I mean. That's you. It's rainbows and chainsaws. He was partying last night. He had countless numbers of beers, got quite wasted from what I can tell, and then got up and did the gardening. That is the essence of rainbows and chainsaws, if ever I heard one.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I think to be not humble at all. No, I think it's one of the most interesting metal IR packs out there because first of all, it's not very technical, so it's not a lot of IRs, but they are all mix ready and they all work and they all have names that tell stories. So you just click on them and you will have some fun immediately. But if you want to dive into some tone crafting yourself, you can combine them and find anything from beautiful to total darkness. So far we've released them last week, and so far has been crazy. So people love them. We're getting a lot of great feedback. I've released them together with Bogren Digital, by the way, and with Jens Bogren, a fellow metal producer and colleague and friend of mine.
But more Swedish than you.
More Swedish than me, yeah. I'm only 50% Swedish, but he actually lives very close to the place where my grandparents lived in Sweden,
lovely.
And I spent some time there as a kid, so I maybe ran into Jens back then. Who knows?
Well, I'm hoping once the travel restrictions ease enough, we'll do everything. We'll come out to my wife and I in particular are huge fans of Germany. We always have the greatest time. Hence why I've got this splattering of really bad German that I don't speak very well. But no, we're huge.
I'm waiting for you. I'm totally waiting for you and your wife. I'll show you around.
We'll be there.
It's beautiful around here where I live, and I'm very close to Frankfurt, so easy to reach. I'm here, waiting for you.
Yeah, no, we'll be coming. Although you should be, if NAMM is on, I think it's on. Yeah. You'll be coming out for that, won't you?
Absolutely. First time. That will be my first time in California ever, and there's so many people I got to know in the last 2 years doing COVID that I have never met. So I think everybody of them will be at NAMM. So I'm so looking forward to having fun and getting wasted at NAMM in January. I'm ready.
So Maury asked a question, and they said, I think you need to collaborate with an amp builder to create the best high-gain Marshall amp because no one has done it yet with the nasty intact. That's an interesting one. So are you? I know you're friends with lots of people who make amps, but has that ever crossed your mind to make the ultimate?
Absolutely. I'm not there yet. I'm to be honest. So I did some pedals. I have my. Wait a minute. Grindstein pedal, which is also like
fantastic
a pedal giving you everything from dirty to even more dirty, and so
from grind to mega grind.
Exactly. So I did a few pedals together with Cleartone, like a German small boutique company, somebody who used to work for Users and Kettner before. So we've done pedals.
Who I've met, by the way, everybody, and is a total sweetheart and very smart. Very smart.
Carsten is great, yeah and
guy.
very German, which is great for an engineer.
Very good for
all the German cliches. Anyway, so we've been doing pedals, and I really want to go into an amp direction, but I don't know. I'm not ready yet. I think I have some ideas, but before I do that, I want some kind of ultimate concept, and I think that's going to take some time still, but I would love to release some kind of signature tube amp one day. That would be fantastic.
I would buy it. I would invest in it. I'll give you the money to do it. I mean, it's going to be amazing. No, you for rock guitar tones, you rule. Although your drums stuff is pretty darn good as well. We haven't even had that on our agenda to talk about drums.
No.
But you did put up a really, really cool video. That was funny because you texted me a couple of days ago and said, "Oh, this would have been good on your channel." And I was actually watching it, going, "God, I wish I just put it up on my channel." Because go and check out his video. Go to Kristian's channel. It should be down here. Yeah, there it is. So underneath there it says Kristiab. Can we maybe change that B to an N? Yes. Kristiab. Hey, Kristiab.
Oh, damn.
It's pretty funny underneath the video. So go check out, not at the moment, stay here with us, please. So, yeah, just go check out his channel. I'm sure most of you that are here have already subscribed, but subscribe anyway. And that video on recording drums is such a good video.
It's like, I think like it's more for rock people than for metal people, which are, I have more metal people on my channel. You have more rock and roll people on your channel. It's basically about recording a drum kit, and I'm using just like kick and snare mic, and then I have 3 different pairs of ribbon microphones somewhere in the room. And if you do that right, you can get like 3 different drum sounds, from very intimate to very roomy and like John Bonham sounding with just one click. And I'm showing how I do that. It takes 35 minutes, but could be interesting for you.
Yeah, I think I'm really going to push this video for those that want. I'm going to put it in the chat. There you go. It's in the chat.
Love it.
Open it on a separate tab. We don't want to lose you. But yeah. Oh yeah, we use the Lumix cameras for people that are asking. Okay.
Can we do a giveaway on my IR pack? I want to give it to someone.
Okay. Well, we can do. Why don't we in a few minutes do the ultimate giveaway? We'll give away the course, the IR pack, and a Produce Like a Pro membership. So triple whammy.
Awesome.
So do us a solid, as Americans would say. Could you hit the like button? Because what's great is when you hit the like button is people, YouTube knows that people are here. So Blake Curtis says, is there a Grindstein plugin?
No.
You want to do one?
I can't say anything else.
That means there's one coming out.
I'm just
just the way you can't look at you. You're like the what's it? The cat who's got the cream, the Cheshire cat. He's like this. He's like.
So there's no plugin. There's no plugin.
I cannot confirm or deny that there may or may not be a plugin at some stage.
Exactly. That's
my
what I wanted
guess
to
is
say.
It probably is. And Blake says, thanks, and I will be picking up the Rainbows and Chainsaw pack today. Cheers, mates. Blake, you have good taste.
Thank you.
You will love it. There's a lot of F, who's one of our Academy members, a wonderful one. F, are you in Denmark? I don't remember. F said they unsubbed to you and then subscribed again, so they could subscribe again.
Danish people are weird. Okay. No.
Well, you would know. You're half Swedish.
My grandfather is Danish, by the way, so I'm also a little Danish.
It's funny. It's like I'm exactly the same way. Like my last name, my surname is Flemish, so it means my ancestors are from Flanders, which is kind of half Belgium and half France in modern day. But I have Dutch family in that side as well, and my mother's side is Dutch and Irish. So I'm like proper Dutch and Irish. Like I have Dutch family and Irish family. So yeah, it's good. I like it.
Yeah, lovely. I mean.
We are European, I think, is what we're trying to say.
Exactly. Yeah, combination of all. Of course. Yeah.
But I don't have any Swedes. I definitely have German in my family, I think, but everybody in England does. Hence Anglo-Saxon. Okay, so let's talk about IRs in a little bit more depth, because lots of people make IRs, and not many people make really good ones. We just had this conversation and went through a lot of stuff with a different company, and we're going back to remake some IRs for them. But your process, are you, because actually I don't know the answer to this, are you doing this through your chain? So it's tell us a little bit about how you make the IRs.
Yeah. I started making IRs with guitar amps, with tube amps. That's how I started. But then I pretty quickly found out that I prefer using cleaner gear. So I have been using, where is it? I can't see it right now. I've been using a solid state power amp now for creating the IRs. From Seymour Duncan, Power Stage something. So I try to have a very clean signal path when doing the IRs. That's one thing. I'm trying not to go through a tube amp. And I think the reason why so many IRs out there, and I checked a lot of them before I came out with my first product myself, sound bad because people cannot properly mic speakers. I think that is the problems. They sound phasey, they sound weird, they sound honky, they just sound wrong. And then sometimes people don't understand how to mic a speaker for a certain genre. So I think that is the main problem. So creating IRs is technically pretty simple, and anybody can do that. But the beauty and the art is in miking a speaker properly, and that means, it's no wonder the first IRs that I really liked were the ones that Jens Bogren put out. But of course, that guy is one of the most famous metal producers out there. Of course, he knows how to mic a cab for metal. That is the difference. And your IRs sound great, Warren, because you know how it works. So
well, I have smart people helping me. I'll be honest. Smart people helping me really helps. Plus, of course, like you say, using the right chain.
Oh wait, I can see the amp now. Too many pedals. Wait.
What's this?
I've been using this.
Oh yeah.
I've been using this to capture the IRs. Seymour Duncan Power Stage, and even the EQ sometimes it's helpful.
Wow. Most
of the time I don't use it, but you can tweak the signal a little more with this EQ. Kind of sounds good. Nice little amplifier. That's what I use.
Cannot be underestimated in just how much of a difference they make. It is insane how much of a difference they make. It is ridiculous.
What people don't know is that what I've been preaching for a long time is that the more gain you use for your guitar tone, the more important the cabinet, speaker, microphone setup becomes. But for all distorted or overdriven guitar tones, I believe that the cab, speaker, microphone setup is the most tone-defining part of the signal chain. And I think people are learning that now more and more because they compare different IRs. But people used to care only about guitars and guitar amps and not enough about speakers, especially, and about miking speakers properly.
Right. So let's do some questions. Let's do some questions, and then we'll come back at the end with a massive giveaway where we give away Kristian's course, Kristian's IRs, and, of course, a membership to Produce Like a Pro. And if you're already a member, which I can see a couple of hundred of our members are here, then, of course, we'll extend it. Well, if not, if you're already, there's some people who are lifetime members already. If you're a lifetime member, we'll give you, some ProMix Academy courses.
Lifetime member, wow. There's something like lifetime membership?
Yeah, we only offer it once or twice a year. So
wow.
But so Mary and Sam, who are very avid watchers, a great couple who are both insanely talented, asked us questions. I actually have a question for Kristian. What types of tubes work best for metal and prog metal? We've tried 6L6 and EL34s. Are there any better ones?
It depends on the whole design of the amp. So I have amps with EL34s, with 6L6, with KD88. It really depends. I have to say, I even did a video about this, that the tubes themselves, the difference they make is mostly smaller than expected. So it makes a difference, but overall, the whole design of the amp is usually a lot more important. And So, is that an answer? I hope so.
No. It's good.
Yeah.
I think I'm not like nowhere near a guitar. I'm a guitar player, but nowhere near an aficionado on tubes like you are. But that is kind of my thing. I would agree with that.
I have a whole video. If they check out my channel, like I don't have too many videos. I just started the channel half a year ago. So there's one video about tubes where I compare. I have 2 amps and I compare a lot of different tubes, and I've done this very professionally, and they're all new. So watch that video, and there are a lot of audio files, so you can get an impression yourself. That will be interesting if you want to know more.
Yeah, definitely. And Vasilius is asking whether there is going to be a drum video, a course. Yes, there definitely will, but it will be in a different guise, shall we say. Stay tuned on that one. That's a little bit like his amp that he's working on that he's not working on, and his pedal plugin that he's not working on that he's working on. Well, there's going to be a drum course, but not in the same way. But he's not working on it, but he is. So there's lots of things like that.
You should do the talking for me. It's great. Yeah. Officially, yeah. Ben
Tillerman says if you can get hold of them, new old stock Mullards are amazing. I mean, absolutely, yeah. Dan's saying, of course, they need to be biased properly to sound right. Agreed. I do like. I can say that I'm not endorsed or anything, but I like the tubes from Tube Amp Doctor. You can also get them in the US, and like the premium selected tubes from Tube Amp Doctor. They sound good, they last long, and they are just selected very, very carefully. So I can recommend Tube Amp Doctor. Babe Grand says you didn't answer the question. I don't know what the question was. I can't see it. What was the question? Oh, how much time do you give yourself to experiment with the project at hand before you switch to what you already know from experience that works? That's a good question. We should both answer that. You go first.
Yeah, I go first. Okay. So it's not either or. What you should do, and that's what I'm teaching in the course, is I created something that I call my tone matrix. So I know all the gear that I own pretty well, and I'm talking about each piece of equipment, each amp, each guitar, each pickup, each microphone, each cabinet, each speaker, all of that. And I have like those puzzle pieces, and I know what they do. So if I want to go somewhere, I try to find the right puzzle pieces that probably gonna get me there. So it's not about like going the old school way or doing it experimentally. It's always about having an idea for something and then being able to find a quick solution. And then you can, even if there's a session where you don't have a lot of time, if you know your gear properly, then you can even do experiments, because you will probably end up with something cool. So this is something I'm explaining in detail in the course as well. And that is very important if you want to get not only great sounding guitar tones, but if you want to get guitar tones fast.
Yeah, I agree.
Now your take, Warren. What?
No,
how do you go?
I think I wanted you to go first because you 90% of what I'm going to say. I could just go ditto, or in American ditto. No,
ditto.
Yeah, I think it's when I'm tracking like a rockish kind of track, like a rock pop song, which is probably where I live in. I don't live in pop. I don't do, I don't spend much time doing much program stuff anymore. I'm not using that many virtual instruments, although I do, but I don't rely on them. So I'm more like rock/pop. But I would say there's things I know that are just going to work. Like if I'm recording an acoustic guitar to just drive the song and make it like, I know that when I think about it, I've been doing this long enough, I'll be honest, where the twisted weird sound is actually just something I'm used to. So I have versions of twisted weird, sort of twisted weird, pretty regular, and super pop, and lots of things in between. So I sometimes things that can sound experimental are actually something I'm very used to. So that's the beauty of doing this for a long time. The longer you've been doing it, the guitar player says to you, "Oh, I want some like real mangled kind of weird tone," you know, and you talk to them for a couple of seconds and you realize how you can get to it, and you get to it really quickly. And it may be a sound that's stored in your mind from 5 albums ago. So that's why you get hired. That's why people hire you as a producer and an engineer, or you know, on your mixing skills for that. That they say, I want it to sound like, you know, whatever artist, whatever album, whatever guitar tone or whatever it is, and you have the resources to get to it. So it's kind of a tricky answer because that's part of the learning process of us doing this for so many years.
Sure. I totally agree. You need something that you can recall, that you can go back to. So I have certain presets. I know if I use that amp with that speaker, with that microphone, it's going to sound like this. But then the interesting part is mostly people want, you know, something slightly different. Then you go like, okay, but this time I'm going to change one puzzle piece in there. So you go back to a certain preset and then you start tweaking it. And that's how so you get a tone fast, but by tweaking it, it's not going to sound exactly the same, and it's, you know, started sounding interesting again. That's how I do it. So again, the more experienced you are, the better you know your gear, the better it is.
Yep. Just joking with, yes, and I agree, Aaron. I'm sure my American accent is terrible. And I've already written that. Accent is terrible. You'll see that before I've said it. So Topiness says, ever tried running a bit crusher and distortion pedal in tandem?
No, I haven't been that courageous yet, but it's actually a good idea. The problem in metal is always that people play very fast palm use, kind of stuff. So you always want to keep the bass tight. That's one of the most important things in metal that are not that important in rock, just because. So it's always like a combination of keeping the bass tight, so you hear what the guitarists are playing, and giving it some attitude. So I've been blending fuzz distortion with normal modern high gain distortion. That worked so far. But Bit Crusher sounds really interesting. So good idea. So probably if you blend it, that could work. I will try that. Can you recommend something, a pedal or something?
Yeah, that's a good question. Is there a Bit Crusher you can recommend? Sound Guy said, guys, have you ever messed with the Russian Red Beer amps? You know Red Beer amps?
No, but red bear or beer?
Oh, sorry, red bear. I'm just looking at you and thinking beer, so I said beer. It's just, you know, it's Christian. Everything's a beer.
It got me really excited, but now that it's bear, no.
Well, it's Berlin. It should really be Berlin, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
We're going to go, and I will be at Berlin next year.
Oh, yeah.
We should be up there. What we should probably do next year is do something at Hansa, like have you come in and then bring in a band and record it in Hansa, because that'd be interesting. Because I love Hansa Studio and I love Berlin, and I love that city, and yeah, we should find a German band and record it there. That would be a really good.
No problem.
Yeah,
no problem.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, for real. Let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it. If anybody interested in doing that, usually I go there around the Super Booth thing, which is not very metal, but it's cool because it's like it's a bunch. It's basically a bunch of German nerds. You go there and it's like a whole bunch of people that have invented software, hardware, like synths, and
but it's based around modular synths, right? Or
it is, but there's so much more to it because it's just anybody who's nerdy and German that makes electronic equipment. It's just like you get it. Then, okay. Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, it's because it's. I mean, for instance, I got there last year. Well, it was actually the year before. Last year was cancelled, wasn't it? But anyway, the year before, and we're talking to this guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I invented samplers." And I'm like, you did? And then we Google him, and we're like, oh yeah, you did. He made the very first digital sampler in like 1974 or something like that. Like that's what's so cool about it. You just get to hang out with nerds. And
Super Booth is in Berlin too?
It's in Berlin, yeah. It's in the old East German side. So it's in this, it's kind of an kids indoctrination camp, because what it was like it was the summer camps, and the kids would go in there and they'd all learn to be gymnasts or swimming. And a lot of my friends, you know, Michael Krusch from Tigla went there, and Kirsten and Roland from Eve Audio, East German as well, and they both went there, and they said that the little boys would be in wooden tanks, like learning how to be soldiers and stuff like that. Yeah, for real. Like
Wow.
totally crazy. But what they've done, and it was a big, ugly concrete building, and now what they did is they covered it with wood. So it's like completely clad in wood, but it's a great environment to just kind of like hang out with nerdy people talking about music and gear, and
Awesome.
and it's not just, there's a lot of modular synths, but there's tons of like compressors and EQs, and you know, it's just fun.
Nerdy stuff. Sounds lovely. And
It
do
is
they
a lot
have
of fun.
beer? Do they have beer there?
Of course they do. It's Germany.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'll be there.
I thought when you landed in an airport, the first thing you see is a bar. I mean, what are you talking about? I don't.
Of course. I was just kidding. Of course, yeah. Yeah.
Christian's like, there's a beer, I'm going.
Exactly.
All right. Todd says, do you add tape emulation after the IR? I like to use plug-in DAW cassette after the IR. Just 30% blend, takes some of the harsh end off, and creates so much more harmonic content. I suppose
Okay.
tape
You
emulation.
you don't need that with my IRs. I would say that they are kind of mix ready for what I do. But of course, feel free to do some experiments. I'm not the biggest fan of tape emulation. That also has to do with metal being so all over the place, so overly distorted, you know, and that the metal mix job is mostly to tame the chaos and not to add even more distortion to it. You know what I mean? That's very different to most pop music and some rock music, where you need to add some more attitude with distortion, tape emulation, what else? Like also console emulation, analog summing and stuff. In metal, most of the time it's about taming the beast, and that's why if I do metal, I don't use a lot of that stuff. Try my IRs. I would say you don't need anything there to make them sound great. Then you can start there and, you know, find your tone by adding whatever you need.
Somebody's asking me who won the Dark Side project. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I do know. I think they're in Brazil, and the reason why I know is try shipping things to Brazil. It gets very expensive. Eve Audio, God bless them. I've got to give a shout out to all of German companies. Let's give Eve Audio a shout out. Not only did they provide us with a pair of beautiful speakers to the winner, they also foot the bill for the taxes that you have to pay in Brazil, and it was like 1,500 euros, like $1,700. God bless Eve Audio for doing that. That's why we always do as a prerequisite for anybody who enters any competition we do, it's always shipped worldwide. And so any manufacturer that agrees to do that, God bless them, because they're providing the product for free, and they're also paying an enormous amount of import duty. So I can't remember off the top of my head who won, but I think the main winner was in Brazil. If not, it was one of the top three. But anyway,
I still need to check out Eve Audio, by the way. German company. I've never heard any of their speakers. I know it's the guy who used to be Adam, right?
Yeah, designer at Adam. Yeah,
obviously,
yeah, Adam and Eve. Yeah, but he left quite a long time ago and sold that company before they before they got sold and resold and all that stuff.
Okay.
Storm Blast said, could you, Kristian, elaborate what gear you used on the newest Disavowed record? You made it sound just like the Disavowed should, but with your modern take on it. And he said, by the way, I'm just finishing my Weissbier. His white beer. Weissbier.
Weissbier, yeah.
Yeah, white beer.
That's a German. That's a very, very German Bavarian beer. I don't drink too much Weissbier, but you got taste, man. Anyway, Disavowed is a Dutch death metal band that did their last album in 2005 or something, and now they did a new album. And I mixed that album, and I also recorded the drums. The drummer is from Transylvania. That was the funny guy. Anyway, so they used to have their signature sound back then. They were playing some Digitech digital amp modelers. Terrible. you know. But that was the disavowed tone. So they came here and said, like, that's our sound. We want that, but I know it's actually sounding pretty shitty, and it's actually sounding overcompressed, and it has no real lows. So what can we do? So we were searching for a long time, and I remember I had all the guys in here, and we were doing a whole day just of guitar sound check, how we could combine that Digitech preset they have in that unit from 2001 or 99 with something modern. And I think we ended up with 2 tracks of that Digitech, but going through a real cabinet, and then we added 2 tracks of, I think, rectifier or some other amp, and those are blended together so we could achieve that tone, so people know, it's disavowed, without sounding shitty. And I think it worked pretty well, because this is a good example of a unique tone. You know, it's not the best tone, but it's a unique tone, and it has character. That's how I want to make records. That's how listen to that album. Interesting album.
No,
very extreme death metal.
Really cool. There's a couple of questions. I think Scott Chernobyl's here, aren't you? Scott, are you here?
Hey Scott.
I saw.
Really?
I thought I saw a comment from him. Scott, are you here? Identify yourself. Scott also has other great courses as well, and is a wonderful guy. And check out his channel. But the reason why I thought that is because Martin, I don't know if he's Dutch or German, so I don't know how to do the von. Martin von Bargen says, what is Kristian's take on low passing amp sims? I've seen people cutting between 6 and 12 hertz. As a man with old ears, I'm happy to hear 5 to 6K clearly, and smiley face. But I suppose, can I ask that question a little further? Do you do low passing, or do you think using an IR does that for you?
No, even my IRs are low pass. My standard low pass is, let me look it up. This one at 11K. That's my standard low pass when I record guitars. And that just takes away the fizz. So I always do that, but sometimes you need more. I never go lower than maybe 9K or something for metal, because you need some grind up there to make it sound metal. But yeah, somewhere in between 9 and 12K, I always use a high cut. Yeah.
If you listen to some of those classic kind of very late 70s, early 80s heavy rock, it was like there was nothing above like 4 or 5K, was it? It was all this sort of like super mid-rangey guitar tone, you know. That's why I love Chinatown, for those of you that want to check out Thin Lizzy's Chinatown, is it doesn't sound like an album from the time. It doesn't have that sort of super restricted, you know, mid-rangey kind of guitar tones that the late 70s had. It has a really beautiful top end and a great girth to it. Really fantastic sounding record, even to this day.
I have to listen to that. You have spoken so much about that. I have to listen to it.
It's like I love
after this interview, or after this, yeah.
It's a pretty simple riff. It's just.
I know the riff.
Yeah. It's just Scott Gorham and Snowy White just being freaking badass. Just 2 absolutely phenomenal guitar players. Yeah, really, really great. And, you know, and Phil Lynot's amazing bass playing. We just did a cover of Boys Are Back in Town, and I was like, I'm going to have to get a real bass player to play this. So I had Tony Franklin do it, you know, who was in the Firm with Paul Rodgers and Jimmy Page. And so he played it, and he messaged me. He's like, this is a bitch. This is a real pain in the ass bass line. I mean, you know, he could play it, but he was like, it's, you know, it's what makes the groove between him and the drummer. It's like, because you listen to the drums in isolation, you're like, yeah, it's fairly groovy. You listen to the bass in isolation, you're like, it's fairly groovy. You put the 2 together, and you realize just what a rhythm section Thin Lizzy was. I sort of, here's a bit of a philosophical question for you. I think that's one of the things that I'm missing from modern metal, is a bit of groove. Everything's too freaking, you know,
yeah.
How do you think about that? Do you try to encourage the bands to think a little bit more on a push and pull, so it grooves a bit more, so there's less kind of like, I am a machine, and And
I mean, again, it depends on the style. So the more rock and roll it is, and the more groove orientated it is, I will push the bands for groove for sure, and I will do less editing than on other albums. If you play technical death metal, you really want to have things tight, because otherwise it's just a mess. There is no groove. There's no Thin Lizzy groove in that way. There's no time for that. That music is just not built on groove. There are other parameters that matter, that makes that music shine. But so that's maybe the problem, or another problem, but a fact that a lot of modern metal genres are not groove based, like the genres where you are coming from. And for those genres, I think it makes no sense. And then there's other genres who are a little more traditional, and there, of course, it makes sense not to edit everything to death, and to have great musicians who just have a natural swing to them. Once again, check out. We talked about my drum video. That's a good example.
Yeah, very
band.
much so. Yeah,
that's a band that called the Alligator Wine, and it's just two guys. One of them plays a distorted Hammond organ and a Moog bass synth, and the other plays drums. And they sound like Led Zeppelin but without guitars. So they're a really interesting band. And for a project like that, groove is everything.
Yep.
But for Disavowed, the band we talked about before, groove is not really important.
Right. I just put the link to that video again. Definitely go and check it out. Thanks everybody that's subscribing to this channel, of course, but also thanks everyone that's going to subscribe to Kristian's channel. This channel is absolutely phenomenal. All right, let's go for a couple more questions, and then we'll ask a question where you can win Kristian's course, Kristian's IR pack, and of course a membership to Produce Like a Pro Academy. If you're already a member, we'll give you a year extension, and if you're a lifetime member, you can choose any course you like from ProMix Academy. Okay, I know, I got it down, have I? I think.
I like the comments that I read here. Walk by Pantera has a groove. I agree. Infant Annihilator. That is. just Google that band. They have some funny videos out there. Alligator Wine, Screaming Jay Hawkins. Yeah, they took their name from a Screaming Jay Hawkins song. That's called the Alligator Wine. So blues rock inspired. Exactly. Sorry for interrupting you, Warren.
No, you weren't interrupting. Infectious Grooves, side project from Suicidal Tendencies. Yeah, of course. I know Dave Kushner. Dave lives down the street. Dave Kushner from Infectious Groove, Suicidal Tendency is also the guitar player with Slash in Velvet Revolver.
Wow.
Oh, Travis keeps asking this question. Sorry, what's your favorite cables? Do you have a particular cable manufacturer that you...
We are like kind of endorsed or something by Sommer cables. I don't know if you know them. They're pretty big over here.
Not off the top of my head.
And we just buy their stuff. But I don't believe, and I've done a lot of tests, maybe I'm just too stupid, but I don't believe in any cable voodoo magic or something, so I like having decent cables, but
yeah,
I don't need.
I feel similarly when I've got the budget or somebody gives me something for free, but usually we still have to buy things. Life isn't. Klotz were always really good. Talking of German companies, Klotz cables were fantastic. We've recently been using, what are they called? It's called what, sorry? This is terrible. Sorry, Wireworld. Sorry, Wireworld. I actually could see the guys, the owners of the company's faces, and I couldn't remember the name of the company. That's what happens. What do you got there?
It's like, this is something, you can't read it. Don't you know Sommer cables? I thought they were...
How do you spell it?
You can't see that. It's the word summer in German. Summer just with an O. Sommer.
I don't off the top of my head, but
over here they're as popular as Klotz, like same. But who cares? I would be happy with Klotz, or I would be whatever. I just remember that I once bought a Vovox cable for a guitar cable. Because I thought, like, okay, let's invest in something really high end and expensive, and that cable died on me 5 times. So I started with whatever 3 meters, and it got shorter and shorter because it was always breaking and dying. I still have it, so that was a really bad investment. And yeah, no voodoo for me. It's more about playing decent, playing.
Tim keeps asking the same question, but I actually don't understand it. Tim says, how would you gentlemen create that infamous, thunderous, huge, deep acoustic guitar sound? I don't know what the infamous, thunderous, huge, deep acoustic guitar sound is. You have to give me a example. What songs, what band, what artist? Because I actually don't think of acoustic guitar sound as being infamous and thunderous, deep, huge, deep guitar sound. I mean, if you're saying, do you want a lot of low end on it? Then, back it off, get some of the sound hole in there. If you just ask after like a bunch of low end in there, typically I try to mic away from that as much as I possibly can. But but give me some songs, give me some references as to what you think of infamous and thunderous. Do you know what infamous and thunderous acoustic guitar sound would be?
Sorry,
no, we're not sure what you mean. I'm sure that if you give us a song reference or a band reference, we'll know what you mean. Ricardo's been asking this question a couple times. What equipment inspires you to most produce? Is there anything that you're just like inspired by gear-wise? Probably
guitar amps. Guitar amps a lot. Sometimes sound libraries. And sometimes extreme effects. I like extreme effects. Could be guitar effects, could be shimmer reverbs, could be extreme distortion, stuff like that. That can be inspiring. But also guitar amps. I sometimes, most of the time when I play guitar these days, it's not about playing guitar, but I start comparing or start testing an amp, and then I just, get sucked into the magic, into a certain tone. And then, I suddenly realize I've been playing for 1 hour. And so guitar amps can be addictive.
Right. People are talking about Belden. I agree with you. For me as a perspective, because I started as a guitarist, guitars are like, I still pick up a guitar and absolutely love it. Mogami all the way. Says somebody. I mean, I think what we're saying is there's a lot of really good companies. There's a lot of really, really good companies.
This is a Belden. This is a very expensive Belden cable. I also have those.
Yep.
Yeah, it's as Belden.
I remember Belden back when I was living in the UK. Ben says mat amps are amazing for doom metal. I love mat amps; they're really good.
Yeah, that's what people suggested me to try, like Sun and mat amps. So I think mat amp is the original Orange or something, right? Or the guy who founded Orange or something. I want to try one of those.
Somebody said, "How can I get my mix sounding like punk rock?" But what they're saying is like Green Day punk rock. Honestly, Green Day punk rock, I think, is honestly just rock amps. I mean, that version of punk rock to me sounds like a rock track, but with somebody saying, "Do you have a time?" You know what I mean? It's more about. If I'm just being honest, I like Green Day. Don't get me wrong, but if you mute the vocals on a Green Day record, it's a rock album.
There's nothing for me. There's nothing punk rock about Green Day. That is rock pop music or something.
It's more about the vocal and the songwriting that makes it punk rock. It's the lyrical aspect, but I agree.
Yeah. Punk rock should be just like heavy metal. Punk rock is, started with the Sex Pistols. Punk rock for me is something a lot more dirty and lives from being imperfect.
Yeah, to me, it's the ultimate punk rock record for me, and there's loads, but the other one for me is, and there's ones before this, and there's ones after it, but it's the Stooges' Raw Power, and they had earlier albums. Fun. Some of their stuff was a bit more garage rock before, but Raw Power is like, for me, and I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying personally, that's like the birth of punk to me, because it's just like everything that I want about punk. But I know what you're saying.
And Green Day is more some kind of very polished Hollywood sounding, whatever, 2000s rock thing. It's not bad at all,
No, it's great.
But,
I agree.
But it's not punk.
Yeah, so probably think to answer your question, then think of a classic kind of rock guitar sound, and then I mean that record is a very pop punk album. It's auto-tuned vocals, it's edited drums, it's very, I know the story behind the making of a record. It's a very perfect sounding pop rock punk record. Pop rock punk is probably the best way of putting it. But if you want to go, I agree. If you want to go punk, then you're looking at Iggy, you're looking at the Detroit bands, the New York bands, and then the British bands. But start with Detroit, Toronto, and New York, and if you want to go back, go to MC5. All of those bands were a middle finger to the times. They were all, the British thing was all about what was going on with the recession that was happening in England, the 3-day work weeks. There was a lot of anger in the mid-late 70s among the youth. They felt like their whole generation was getting screwed, quite frankly. And then, punk rock in late 60s and early 70s in America that never got popular was similar. It was not Vietnam War. It was something to be said. Yeah. So we all like Green Day, don't get us wrong, but the ethics behind punk has to come from some kind of movement,
Exactly. It's a political thing, It's not it's in Germany we in the 80s especially, we also had a very active and highly political punk rock scene, and it always had that attitude, anybody can play any instrument, doesn't really matter, anybody can be the drummer. It's not about that. It's not about being technically perfect or something. It's about the message you have to tell. So the punk rock movement in Germany was very left-wing, and some really nice bands. Of course, they never made it. They were never famous outside of Germany because they were all singing in German. But when I was young, I was listening to a lot of them. And that was interesting because it was a totally different attitude compared to the metal guys, who were a lot more musical and sophisticated, and playing solos and stuff. And so the punk rock guys were always laughing at the metal guys, saying like, oh, they're singing about dragons and and Lord of the Rings and all that bullshit, and we're doing the real thing. And the metal people were looking at the punk rock people saying like, they can't even play, so why should we? Whatever. I like punk rock and I like metal.
I thought he saying, but how do I get my mix more powerful? I thought we answered the question. Yeah, just think like rock. Just record the guitars and mix the guitars. So don't get caught up with thinking it's punk. So like, you can watch any of Kristian's stuff on recording guitars. You could get his course, enter to win in a second. But the point is like, just think about recording rock guitars, and the punk attitude that is in Green Day will come from the vocal delivery, not necessarily the lyrics, you know what I mean, but the vocal delivery of the fact that it's got that, he always sounded like he was English to me. He always sounded like, do you have a time? That doesn't sound like an American to me, so that's what makes it punk, is that delivery. But yeah, guitar-wise, just think classic Marshall tones. Sure, it was a Marshall, maybe boogies, probably a combination of Marshalls and boogies put together. I don't know. It was it's a Rob Cavallo Crystal Algae album. I mean, it's the two most mainstream guys of the period. Mainstream mixer, mainstream, producer. Great. Didn't Doug McKeon engineer it? All at the top of their game, like, high-priced, the best guys of their days, So you've got to think, you've got to think more standard rock stuff if you want to get that. So get a more standard rock guitar sound. Think Marshall. Think boogies. Maybe even Bogner's that period, mid-early 2000s. They were pretty big, weren't they?
Or Dietzel already? No.
Was it Dietzel? And maybe not in America, but Soldano was probably also popular. Yeah, Soldano guitar tones as well.
I don't know, but Marshall and boogie and somewhere in between is a good guess, or a good starting point.
To be honest, when I was working with Jordan and he did Offspring 2 records, he did Americana, which is 40 million albums sold just at the one album, And what he did, here you go, this is a good answer. What he did is he blended live amps, Bogners and Marshalls. He had a Bogner, a Marshall, and a Saldana that we would use a lot. He would blend those with Amp Farm. So what it was a combination of the real amps with the virtual amps. And so maybe that's another tip if you want to go for that kind of period of late 90s, early 2000s kind of pop punk. Just maybe try and do that. Maybe try blending classic amps with virtual amps together. That will probably get you that. That will probably get you there. Oh, I love the new Green Day record. I mean, didn't Chad Blake mix that? It's freaking awesome. The new album's really good, and it does actually go more punk rock. And Butch Walker produced it as well, who's also amazing. Okay, let's do the next giveaway. So this is going to be the big giveaway. So you're going to get Kristian's course, Kristian's IRs, and a year's membership to Produce Like a Pro. And if you're already a member or a lifetime member, you can choose any courses you want from Pro Mix Academy. All right, what do we want to know? We've asked people about how they monitor. We've asked them whether they use hardware. Amps, okay.
Amps.
What amp?
Yeah.
What is your favorite guitar amp? What is the amp? You don't have to own it because that's, then only half the people here will be able to enter. Anybody can enter. If you only had one guitar amp to record, only had one guitar amp in the whole world to record, what would it be? What is your favorite guitar amp? There's no wrong answer. Let us know. And then at random, Mr. Eric Von Derrickson over here, or Eric Von Derrickson over here will pick somebody at random. See if there's any questions. Blake says, the beauty of underground music is that both punks and metalheads can be seen at each other's shows. Then ultimately, grindcore was created from an early metal and punk scene.
Oh, yeah. In Britain, Napalm Death.
Yeah, oh, yeah. God, they go back a long time. That's like early 80s.
85 or something. Yeah. 85 or something, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, yeah. They're still around. And I actually just listened to the latest Napalm Death record, and I was pretty impressed at those, 55-year-old dude. No, I don't know how old they are, but they put out a really pissed off sounding record with a pretty unique sound as well. Pretty dirty yet modern sounding. Check out the latest Napalm Death record. That is good album.
No, I believe it. Yeah, because you are right. As rock stars tend to get older and happier and wealthier, they tend to miss the ability to write about something really super important. So that's great to hear.
And especially if you're doing grindcore, one of the most pissed off and most, evil and rebellious sounding genres out there. Getting old is usually not helpful, but those guys are still pretty pissed off over there. Nice.
So don't forget to enter. All you have to do is tell us what is your favorite amp, and also hit the like button. Please hit the like button. Okay. Getting asked by Dan with the down tuning. So this is kind of a double whammy. I'll extend this question. When you're tuning down to the D, C, or B flat, even A, I suppose, do you have preferences on, I suppose, first of all, string manufacturers? Is there any one string manufacturer you like? And then gauge-wise, is there a sort of go-to gauge, or is it guitar dependent?
It's guitar dependent, and it depends on the scale, of course. So I'm using, I don't know the exact gauge, but I'm using a 7-string pack where I just get rid of the thinnest string, and it's from GHS, and it sounds. I think it's a Zach Wild 7-string thing. Look it up. I don't know. I don't want to say anything that is incorrect, but the best thing you can do if you want to tune low and if you don't want your strings to be too thick and too uncomfortable is get a baritone guitar, just a longer scale. That is so helpful. I have like the same guitar. You can see this. I know it's not there. Oh, excuse me. I have two Fernandez Ravel that I play a lot in my videos, and one is the baritone version, and the other one is a normal version. And the baritone version just holds the tuning so much better. So if you want to go low, It's get a baritone guitar. That's what I recommend. Or get a 7-string or something. But I'm too stupid to play 7 strings. I don't know. I never. What about you?
I got my
tried,
very
but...
first 7-string guitar. Can you pass it to me?
Yes.
It's gonna come. Warren has got a 7-string guitar.
Woo!
And I'm very blessed. It came from Misha. Misha Mansour from Periphery gave it to me. It's like
awesome.
Even through the little mic, you can hear how. I mean, that's. So wait there. If that's, I'm not even thinking. I think he's tuned to D, isn't he? So wait there. If so that's if.
It should be A then. The lowest.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's an A.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But it's fun. Metal music, it just sounds so much more evil. The lower, the better.
Well,
gong, gong, gong.
I've got to write something on it.
Yeah, please.
Oh, the paint job. Yeah, the paint job is it's Ferrari red, but it's interesting when he first pulled it out. It was under like super bright lights, and it looked really orange. See, it still looks orange in the video there. So I was like, so it's McLaren? And he's like, no, it's Ferrari.
Is it the original Ferrari red, like the trademarked red, or just in
apparently
the ballpark?
It's the Ferrari red. I mean, that's what he had it painted as the trademark. Well, I mean, whether if I say that, then there could be all kinds of lawsuits. But apparently. So everybody, it looks like we have a winner. Please hit that like button, like and share and all that kind of good stuff. Who won?
Alchemy Audio.
Alchemy? Do you mean alchemy?
Yes.
Alchemy Audio, yeah.
That's just my speak.
My speak.
My speak.
You're having a good day today, aren't you?
Yeah, there you go.
Alchemy, my speak. Wait, who's the non-native English speaker here?
Not me.
Not you.
Me.
No. We need a mic. Eric needs to be on camera on a mic.
Yeah, sidekick. I can see him. Yeah, I can see him.
Yeah. It's great.
He's sitting there.
Alchemy.
Yeah.
I'm going to totally throw you under a bus. Do you know what alchemy is? How's that? I want to know what American education is like. Do you know what alchemy is?
Is it? I'm probably totally wrong. Is it changing from one?
Close.
Like not mineral. One. It's like from gold to silver or something like that, right? Something like that. Or?
Sort of. I mean, I'm not. You go get a prize, but no. Alchemy is the production of gold. It's like so. What they would do in medieval times is they thought they could take different chemicals and processes and create gold. So when something happens like completely miraculous, somebody will go, "Oh my God, it's alchemy!" Like you've done something so miraculous. The best sounding album with the worst band ever. How did you do that? Pure alchemy. So alchemy audio is kind of cool because it's like saying I'm going to take whatever you give me and just turn it into gold.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Alchemy Audio.
Yeah, I like
Congratulations. Let me know how you like my chorus. Let me know how you like the IRs. Alchemy Audio.
So yeah,
awesome.
Just email Eric and he'll get all that stuff sent off to you. Let's do a couple rapid fire questions. Any quick questions? Before we go. Anybody got any quick questions? I'm going to go. I'm scrolling through. Headcase video channel says, would love to hear Warren play detuned heavy riff. It will happen one day.
Yeah, we will do a session together here once you come here.
You can laugh at me.
As evil as it gets.
Can you guys heard about You can use really light gauges on strings. It depends how you play. Obviously, when it comes to super low tunings, if you use really light gauges, what will happen? There's a reason. The reason for using lighter gauges, heavier gauges, is because of this. If you play super hard on a very light gauge, it will go boom, 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 boom. So using a heavier gauge is there, so there's no tuning issues. Now, don't get me wrong, you could use a super, super light gauge and then play like this so that the string doesn't move very far. But when you play a string and it's tuned very low and very light, it will basically do this massive movement and it will go out of tune. So the way around it is to just stroke the strings really lightly, which is cool. And I do know some heavy players that play very light, play very lightly, and play very light strings. You know, but that's a whole other technique. And then suddenly you're like playing super, super light. Got a 4-string bass with low strings from a 5-string set to low A. Yeah, I mean, you could do that. Take a 4-string set and just 5-string set and tune it, put it on a 4-string using the low A on there and tune it down. Yeah, nobody says you can't do that. I suppose in probably a lot of heavy rock, the G string is probably not used as much, you know, because you're reinforcing low chords anyway. So that actually doesn't really. That's kind of smart, isn't it? Just take a 4-string and put the low four strings of a 5-string set on there. Works perfectly well as well. Yeah, that's smart.
I can see 2 questions here. Wait.
Cool.
Evertune bridge. I love the Evertune bridge because it makes your life so much easier. Also in the studio, because you can almost lock the strings. So if you play rhythm work where you don't need any bendings and you want to avoid that effect that Warren just described, that bang bang effect, Evertune is so helpful. The only reason I'm not using Evertunes is that I'm using a lot of different tunings all the time, like every day, and that is a problem with Evertunes. Otherwise, it's just wonderful to have Evertunes. IR players, I use the Ignite one, the Nadia, that one. That sounds good. I've also used yours. The
we have a
Lancaster
new one coming out as well, which is going to be badass.
Okay.
Badass.
I like in Nadia. I like the filters they have there. They sound nice. The filters are nice, and there's like a resonance function or something that is adding a little more highs or harmonics or something that I like. And it's freeware. That one is good, and it's not changing the tone. Some IR players are not that linear.
Yeah, ours will be free as well. Free's good.
Free's good.
Will a portal to hell open up if I use chainsaw IRs at once? All the chainsaw IRs at once, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But also on the journey to hell, you'll also have a nice garden to stop at and prune some roses.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's the rainbows. You got to have the rainbows with the chainsaws. It's all about balance.
Some joy before you get tortured. Yeah. Say bye-bye to all your loved ones, and then you load up 15 IRs at the same time, and you just go. Then you tune to drop A and go din din and see what happens.
Somebody was calling us a word that I cannot repeat on YouTube by saying that we should be detuned to G. Apparently, G is the way to go.
I've been there, but that's even for a baritone guitar. That is actually 8-string territory.
8-string. Okay. Yeah. Kristian, what headphones do you use for mixing?
None, but the only headphones I would mix on if I was forced to are Odysseys.
I know, we got to get Odyssey. Hook up Kristian. We're going to get it done.
Yeah, I have the LCD2s, and I would love to test the LCD-X because the LCD2s have the most amazing linear bass response you can imagine. They just sound great, but a little too dark in the upper mids. And people tell me the LCD-X doesn't have that problem. So I really want to try the LCD-X. Hello, Odyssey. I like your stuff.
We're going to hook it up.
I love you.
Odyssey, LCD-X.
X. Yeah.
I don't know if I knew which model you wanted. Now I do.
Now you know.
Yeah, that's
Awesome. Thank you.
Probably told me, and I probably forgot. Sorry.
Maybe.
I'm sorry.
Maybe. No problem.
Thanks for the insightful content, says Matt. Love to watch your collab videos. How would you approach the modern low as guitar tunings tone-wise? Talking like modern drop E stuff. What's a modern drop E? Is that like...
I don't know. Modern drop E means 1 octave lower.
Oh.
That's what he means.
But
So
I
that
mean-
is like...
Bass.
Yeah, bass. No, but guitars, 8-string guitar. An 8-string guitar is at F sharp, and if you drop it, you end up 1 octave lower than a regular tuned guitar, which is happening in metal. I don't do that a lot, and I have to say, if you go lower than maybe A or something, into that gent land, something is changing with the frequencies. I haven't done that too much, but I really have to try that a little more, because you can see that certain amps that work for higher tunings, let's say normal down-tuned voicings, they don't work for those very, very low 8-string tunings. The amp that I have used the most for this kind of 8-string tuning is an Engel Savage. That's just, the lower you tune, the better that amp seems to sound.
That's very, very cool. Very cool. All right. Any last burning desires? I'm going to try and see. Rakib very nicely said, YouTube people don't know how much you've changed my mixing skills. Thanks for you two for making my life easier and making mixing enjoyable. That is beautiful. Thank you ever
Great
so
to
much.
hear. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Scrolling through, seeing if there's anything. Big question we missed. How about starting a punk band that uses 8-string guitars? We would call it junk. Junk.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's good. Somebody's giving me their, in drop C, they're playing 12, 16, 26, 44, 56, 72. 50th anniversary, Vox AC30 Heritage, bought it 10 years ago. My favorite Vox amp for those, the Vox one that you heard in my IR pack, somebody was asking about earlier, is a 60, was it 63 or 64? I think it was a 63. It was a Vox AC30 of 63. But my actual favorite Vox AC30 that I used to own and do not anymore was the Purple Anniversary Series amp. That is a wonderful sounding amp. It's all about the Blue Bulldogs for me. Quite frankly, I love those speakers. Are affordable pedal power amps under €200 worth it? I don't know. Who makes pedal power amps at 200? How much is that one? Is that one?
I don't
200?
know, but this one is good, and there's also a smaller version of it. I don't know. I don't know what it costs. I don't remember. But this one is good. This one is pretty linear. That's what you want. The EQ is helpful and nice sounding, and this one gets pretty loud. The only annoying thing is the fan in the studio. That is, but not a problem live or in the rehearsal room, of course. But the Seymour Duncan sounds good. Someone please Google what it costs. I'm too lazy to do that.
I'm Googling as we speak. It looks like it's about $500, so probably
Oh, damn. Sorry.
€400, I imagine. Seymour Duncan, is that the Power Stage 200?
Yes.
And then there's a 170, which is 400. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know who makes the two. I mean, I'm assuming Behringer or somebody like that makes a cheaper version.
There is a Thomann amp that people play a lot over here. I haven't heard it. Is it not T-Bone? What is the Thomann in-house guitar brand? Harley Benton?
Harley Benton. Yeah.
I think they also make an amp that you might want to check out. Can you get all the Thomann stuff in the US? Yes, you can, right? Sort of.
I think you can order it, and I've known stuff to come through here. The Thomann stuff I got, the Harley Benton, was when I was there, which I also hope we were able to do next year. It'd be great to go over.
Oh,
there. Yeah. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. Thanks for giving us a couple of hours of your life. If you haven't already, please go and subscribe to Kristian's channel and buy his course and get his IRs. The links are below. The course is amazing. When I say it's 15 hours of course in 3 hours and 20 minutes, I'm not schnizzling you. I mean, that is... He's about this guy, for a guy that's a half a Swede, he's actually about as German as it gets. It's packed full of info. So check out his course. It's still at the introductory price today, so go check it out. Did Scott ever get back to us at Chernobyl? I don't think he ever responded. Scott came and went. But also, go check out, if you haven't already subscribe to our channel as well as Kristian's, but go and check out Scott at Chernobyl. He's a great guy. Thank you, Kristian.
Thank you. That was my first YouTube live thing, and I was a little nervous, but it was amazing.
You only had 4 beers to start with. Next time you have to have 5. That will get you over your nerves.
At least I need one more now, for sure. That's what I'm going to do now. So Prost, everybody. Grab a beer and, enjoy it.
Thanks, everyone. So long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Au revoir. Adios. Adio. Tschüss. Goodbye. Farewell.
Ciao.
Ciao.